Hey everybody, welcome back to our study on the Sermon on the Mount. My name is George Willett. Tonight we are on lesson 27, True and False Disciples. We'll be going through Matthew chapter 7, verses 21 through 23. Now, if you remember, last week we went through verses 15 through 20, and we were talking about true and false prophets. So as Jesus is concluding his sermon and he's wrapping up, He's giving us wisdom. He's giving us this discernment to understand that we need to be looking at and assessing what's really going on in the lives of people. People who are proclaiming the Word of God, who are speaking on God's behalf, and also people who say they're living for God. So, as always, why does this matter? Again, I just want you to think about it. I want you to really own this. The Sermon on the Mount is so important in the life of believers because it's Jesus talking to us about the way we're supposed to be living. Like we talked at the very beginning, how over the years, people have interpreted the sermon in different ways that, it shows us our desperate need for Christ. It shows us this way of living that nobody can ever live up to. But I'm just going to tell you, when you listen to the sermon, when you listen to the words of Jesus, it's like he's actually telling us this is what living in the kingdom looks like. And the kingdom is not what we're waiting for to happen someday. The kingdom is now. Jesus came and inaugurated. He brought in the kingdom. He brought it here on earth. It will be fulfilled in completion. It'll be total at some point when Jesus comes back. But until then, the church is supposed to live this way in a lost, hurt, sinful world to show other people what the kingdom looks like. And maybe we'll attract people in. So what does he do? These three verses are packed with power and warning. Verse 21. Jesus says, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven will enter." Okay, like I said, this idea that the kingdom is here, that in many ways we're already living in the victory of Jesus on the cross, but there's also a coming fulfillment of the kingdom. Like one day Jesus comes back and all of this is worked out. And when that happens, not everyone who says to me, Jesus says, "Lord, Lord," will enter the kingdom of heaven. So there are people who are proclaiming Christ. There are people who say that Jesus is not just Lord, but Lord, Lord. I mean, they really have surrendered their life, they say. They're lifting Jesus up. And he says, "Only those who do the will of my Father who is in heaven enter into the kingdom." The Father, again, this personal relationship that God is offering this intimate relationship. And he is in heaven. He is where God dwells, that his presence is right now spiritually this place we call heaven, but it's just he's not here with us right now in the way he's going to be. And we've got to obey him. We've got to do something to enter into the kingdom of heaven. We to do the will of the Father? Yes. You see, this gift of salvation is a free gift. We don't earn it. We can't work for it. It's nothing we've done or do, but it's a gift that God gives. The freedom from the consequence of our sin, the freedom from judgment through the person of Jesus Christ, his sinless life, his sacrificial death on the cross, his being buried. I mean, he died as a sacrifice for us, this atoning sacrifices, this propitiation of our sin. But we still have to love the Father and do the will of the Father. I got adult children, and I've always told them, I don't kick my kids out of my house. But you will choose to leave if you choose to not live by my rules. If my kids were 18, 19, 20, or if they had to boomerang back in for a short period of time, When you come back into the home, you still have rules you have to follow. If you don't follow the rules, you're choosing to not live here. If we want to be in the kingdom, we choose to follow the will of the Father. Now, people debate, what is it the Father requires of us? Well, I mean, Jesus broke it down really well. All the commandments can be summed up like this: love God and love people. How that works out, we can talk about it, but it's really simple. We have to do what the Father requires of us. And he goes on in verse 22, many, not a few, many will say to me on that day. What day? The day of judgment. When Jesus comes back and makes everything right, everyone is resurrected to a new life. We all get these new bodies, and we're going to have to figure out, where are we spending the rest of eternity? With God, in the presence of God, in this glorious remade earth, with the new heavens and the new earth where the presence of God comes down? Or quarantined away from the presence of God and the goodness of God in this place called hell? And on that day, many will say, Lord, Lord, again, not just Lord, but Lord, Lord, this intensifier. Like, these are people who maybe from my perspective look as though they're getting it right, or they think they're getting it right. They say, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name cast out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? There are going to be people who, again, by their outward signs, their works, looks like, I mean, I've never cast out a demon. I proclaim the word of God, but do I prophesy in a miraculous way where I see a future event's going to happen and I know it's from God? Or miracles. The only miracle I've ever performed is when someone enters into the waters of baptism and I get to be a part of that, but I don't do anything. I'm just helping them die to their self, and then God does this miracle. That's as close as I get. So these people way ahead of me on that. And then Jesus says this, and then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. And we don't get this. We get told to judge fruit, and these people look like they got great fruit. Fruit is not what we think. We think all these good works, and it's all this external stuff and all this stuff, but it's deeper than that. It's not just the stuff we see, but it's the heart that it flows from. You know, I think there are a lot of people in the church who are attending church and doing stuff that you can do the right thing for the wrong reasons and have this heart that really is not surrendered and submitted to Jesus, and you're still trying to do all of this on your own. I will put my faith and my salvation in my works, in earning this, in doing good, and doing right. And none of this is about me. None of the things I do earn me anything. I don't do good works to earn salvation. I love God and I serve God and I obey God because he saved me. It's the works of Jesus Christ that I am depending on, counting on 1,000,000%. It's all about what he's done, not about what I do. I just get to live this kingdom life because I'm a citizen because of what Jesus did. But this should really stop people. I don't want people to be terrified and like scared, like, oh, I don't know if I'm saved or not. You can know you're saved by putting your faith, your trust completely in Jesus and what he's done. That's what we need to do, because if we put our faith in anything but Jesus, we don't really know Jesus. All right, well, I hope that was helpful, and we will see you next week as we continue this deep dive in the Sermon on the Mount.